Welcome to the video Spring Boot file download controller examples with me, Nam Hà from CodeJava.net. Through this video, you will learn how to code a Spring MVC controller in a Spring Boot web application that lets the clients to download a file from the server on the file system and download a document from MySQL database and download a generated CSV document. We will be working on the Java Maven project using the following technologies: Spring Boot Web, Spring Data JPA, and Hibernate framework, Thymeleaf, MySQL JDBC driver, and I'm using OpenJDK, Spring Tool Suite IDE, and MySQL database server. Alright, so I have a Java Maven project for a Spring Boot web application here. You see the main class. This is a Spring Boot application here. And this is a Maven project file pom.xml, and you can see I'm using Spring Boot Starter, Data JPA, Thymeleaf, Web, DevTools, MySQL Connector Java, JDBC driver for MySQL, and Super CSV library for generating CSV documents. And this is a controller, Spring MVC controller class, and for now we just have a handler method for the home page of the application. And this is the home page. Here you see, and we have three hyperlinks: download a file from server, download a document from database, and download a generated CSV file. Now let me start this Spring Boot application. Okay, the application is up and running. With the port number is 8080, with the context path is empty here. And let me access the application in Chrome browser here. HTTP localhost port number 8080. Okay, and you can see the home page here. A Spring Boot file download demo, and we have three hyperlinks: download a file from server, but we haven't implemented any handler method for the hyperlink yet, so we got the white label error page. And in the next few minutes, I will show you how to code Spring MVC handler method for downloading a file from server, download a document from database, and download a generated CSV file. Now let's code the first handler method in the Spring MVC controller class here that lets the user to download a file from file system on the server here, with the URL is /download_file here. So we write a new handler method in this Spring MVC controller class with the get mapping annotation, and the URL is /download_file public void download file. And for downloading a file, we need to use a reference of HTTP submit response object here, so we can write the data to the response. And suppose that we will let the user to download a file which is in the same directory as the application here. You see I have a PDF file under the files directory, thinking in Java 3rd edition.pdf. The files folder is in the project directory relative to the application. So firstly, we need to create a new file object, new file, and point to the location of the file because it is relative to the application directory, so we can use relative paths like this: files, and then the file name here, copy the file name. Okay, and then for file download, we need to set a special content type for the response. Set content type is application /octitask stream to force the web browser to download the file instead of open it. And then we need to set header key and header value for the response. Header key is content dash disposition, and header value is attachment semicolon, and then the file name. And we get the file name from the file object here, get name. And then we set the header key and header value for the response set header with the given key and value. Okay, so for file download we need to set content type and header key and header value like this. And then we get the output stream from the response here. Response get output stream and assign to submit output stream object and throws the exception, IO exception. Okay, and then we need to read a chunk of bytes from the file here using a buffered input stream. Buffered input stream equal new buffered input stream. The wrapping an instance of file input stream. Okay, for the given file object. Okay, and then we need to declare an array of bytes. Buffer equal new byte with the length is 8192 bytes, which is 8 kilobyte buffer. And then we need to have an integer, a variable that stores the number of bytes read from the input stream, with the integer value is -1. And then we use the while loop to read the input stream by read equal to input stream, read the content to the buffer array, and assign the return value of the read method to the bytes read variable here. And then we need to check if the bytes read is not equal to -1, meaning that the end of the stream has not been reached. So we continue the loop, and then we write the array of byte buffer here to the output stream. Right, buffer, and then the starting index is 0, and then the number of bytes read from the input stream. And then we close the input stream and close the output stream. Close output stream, close. That's it. And the code for reading the content of a file on the file system, and then write the content to the sublist output stream for the client to download. Okay, now we can test downloading this file. Okay, refresh and click the first hyperlink, download the file from server here. And you see, the browser is downloading a PDF document here. You see, showing a folder, and you can see a PDF file got downloaded here. The name is exactly the name in the project you see here. And let me open this file in the browser, and you see the content of the PDF document here. Perfect, right? So that's how to write a handler method that lets the clients to download a file from the file system on the server. Next, I'm going to show you how to code the file download functionality that lets the users to download a document from the database, MySQL database. In this project, I have entity class here, document here, that maps to the table documents in the database with the fields ID, name, size, and upload time, and the actual content, which is an array of bytes here. And in MySQL database, I have the documents table here. one row ID1, and the content is an array of bytes for the document here. And in this project, I'm using Spring Data JPA. So this is the configuration for the data source here: URL, username and password. And this is document repository interface here in order to use JPA repository. Okay, let's write the next handler method that lets the user to download a file that is stored in the database. Get mapping, and the URL is /download_document. Public void download document. And we'll also need to have a reference to an HTTP sublet response object here. And here, firstly, we need to get the document object from the database. So we need to have a reference to the document of repository interface. Auto-y private document repository here, repo. And suppose that we want to download the document with the ID document ID1 in the database for the row of this document here, and then we call repo file by ID passing the document ID. This method file by ID will be implemented by Spring Data JPA at runtime, and we get the actual document and assign to a document object. Okay, and then we get the output stream from the response here. Before that, we need to set the content type and header key and value, and get a servlet output stream. Okay, now for the file name, we can set a fixed file name, or we set the file name from the document get name here. Okay, throws declaration, and then we write the content of the document to the output stream like this: output stream, right, and passing an array of bytes from the document get content. In the document entity class, we have the getter method content that returns an array of bytes here, and this maps to the column content in the database content here. You see. Okay, that's it. Very simple. And then we can test downloading a document from the database. Save the change. Okay, now click the second hyperlink, download a document from a database. And you see, it is downloading a Microsoft Word document, docx document here, show in folder. And you can see the file name is the file name from the database, product info requirement here in the column name here. And let me open this document in Microsoft Word. Okay, and you can see the content of the Word document here. Perfect, right? So that's how to code a handler method in a Spring MVC controller that lets the web client, the browser, the user to download a file that is stored from the database. Next, you will learn how to code a handler method in a Spring MVC controller class that lets the user to download a CSV file. So we write a new handler method in the Spring MVC controller class here. Get mapping with the URL here. download underscore CSV, download CSV. And we also need to have a reference to HTTP service response. And we also need to set the content type, set the header, and get the content type application of this stream file name. We can set a fixed file name, for example, customers.csv. And in this project, I already have entity class customer here with the properties ID, name, email, and country here. Okay, and here I create a fixed list of customer objects. List customer, list customers equal new array list, and I put some customer to this list customer, add new customer, passing the ID, name Ravi Kumar, email Ravi Kumar at gmail.com, and country India. And the second and the third customer, second customer, third customer. Second customer name is Mike gets Mike not guest, and country is USA. And the third customer is Mohammed Jiri, not Mohammed, and country is Morocco. Okay. And then in order to use CSV library, you need to add the dependency super CSV here to the project. And here I can use the super CSV library I CSV bin writer. Here CSV writer equal new bin CSV writer. Sorry, CSV bin writer. And here we need to pass the writer, which is the writer from the HTTP service response. So here we pass response get a writer, and the another argument is for CSV preference. We use standard preference. Okay, so the most important thing here is to pass the writer from the response to the CSV bin writer object. Heteros declaration. Okay, and then we declare an array string header of the CSV, which is ID, customer name, email, and country. And to map the header column here with property in the entity class customer, here we need to have another array field mapping. And here we specify the property name in the customer class ID, name, email, and country as names in the entity class here, ID, name, email, and country. Okay, and then we can use the CSV writer object. CSV writer write the header first, and then we iterate to each customer object in the list customers here. For customer in the list customers, and then we use the CSV writer write a bin here, write the customer object with the field mapping. That's it. And finally we close the CSV writer. close. That's it. And save the change. And now we can test downloading a CSV document which is generated on the server. Okay, and click the last download link here. Download the generated CSV file. And you see it is downloading a CSV document. Show in folder, and you can see a CSV document with the file name customers appears got downloaded here, and I can view it is contained in a text editor like text pad here, and you can see the header columns here, ID, customer name, email, country, and the row here exactly the values of the customer information in the code here. So that's how to write a handler method in the Spring MVC controller class to let the user to download a CSV document which is generated on the server side like this. So far you have learned how to code a Spring MVC controller for file download. I hope you will find this video helpful. Please like, comment, and share this video. Thanks for watching.